Welcome everybody to the event. My name is Joanna Sadie. I head up the business team here at Work Avenue, and my colleague Kim Davidson is waving now. We are both business advisors for Work Avenue, and we are here to help with free of charge business advice and events such as this, and workshops, both online and in-person workshops. So please do approach us for any business advice, and we really hope that this event is going to be useful for you. And we've got a fantastic array of speakers this morning, and the schedule is, the first session we have is how to win followers and influencers, and I'm really delighted to have BENJY Leslie, who started his own talent management agency for influencers just a few years ago. So he can give loads of tips and advice on why and how to approach influencers. Plus, we have two new influencers to the book scene, Sophie, Ezra, and Chaya, and I'm really excited to chat to them all as part of this panel discussion at the beginning. And then at 10:30, we'll probably finish about 10:20, so that everybody can have a quick comfort break before we start off again at 10:30, where we have another influencer, financial management influencer and TikTok star, Gabrielle Nussbaum, who is going to demystify TikTok for us. And then at 11:30, Dan Cranes of Parameter Marketing is going to be diving even deeper in how to create great social media content. So we really have a jam-packed morning. So if there's nothing that comes out of the end of today, then I don't know what we can do. But we really have lots of time to help you all with social media. Plus, we have also, for those of you who are doing more business to business, next Tuesday, we have and who don't feel wildly confident about LinkedIn, we have a LinkedIn workshop, which is going to be run by myself and Kim on everything about LinkedIn. If I could ask all of you participants to actually put your name on that would be really fantastic. So if anybody's got iPhone 2, it would be lovely if we could have your name on there, just so we know who's attended. And if you have any questions, if you could please put them into the chat. I promise you that there will be time for questions, and you're able to ask Benji, Sophie, and Chaya questions. If there's anything urgent, I might kind of interrupt and I'll ask them questions as we go, but we will definitely have questions and time for questions at the end. So I think, why don't we get started? So first of all, I'm going to go to Benji first, and then to Sophie and Chaya, to give a kind of quick overview really of kind of how they get started in their business journey. So please, Benji, lovely to have you here. Please, could you give us a kind of overview of your business journey and how you started up Connect Management?
Of course. Well, firstly, nice to meet everybody. I hope I can add a little bit of value this morning. So I started a business called Connect Management. It's the fastest growing social first talent agency in the UK. From my bedroom 3 years ago during COVID, I was already in an advertising field. I was dealing with more traditional advertising, magazines, TV, stuff like that for some of the biggest airlines in the UK. And obviously COVID struck and there was nobody spending money on advertising to travelers. So I was in a predicament where I was made essentially redundant and had to do something with my life because I had a mortgage and a dog and a car. And I was like, cool, you need to do something. And luckily enough, one of my friends went viral on TikTok and said, I've got an audience of 1 million people. Can you help me sell some advertising to them? And that's where my journey started. I started reaching out to brands the same as I would in my old job. And it dominoed, and I started doing a good job for this one influencer, and it got to 2 to 3 to 5 to 10. And then I was like, right, I need a team to help me do this because I can't manage this on my own. Fast forward to today, we've got 20 members of staff, 138 influencers. We're working with the biggest brands across the UK, and constantly growing. So yeah, that's a little overview. We do both talent management, so we manage influencers, both day to day, and we also work very closely as an agency with brands to essentially create and come up with some amazing campaigns for them across socials.
Amazing. That is, I mean, look, you know, COVID wasn't good for many people, but what a journey for you. That's really, really, really exciting. Thanks for that, Benji.
Made the best out of it.
I have to say, which I think you're only 23, is that right?
Yes, I'm 23, so I was 20 when I started the business.
Yeah, amazing. So that's really just highly inspirational for all of us. Thanks so much, Benji. We're really pleased to have you here. So Sophie and Chaya, can we go to you? Also not a traditional route to your Instagram mostly.
Not really, no, but COVID also played its part actually, because Chaya and I had met once through a friend and we did click straight away, but I'd say we're a bit of a different life stage to you, Benji. We've got 5 kids between us. So COVID was a lot of homeschooling, that kind of thing. I'm sure a number of you will remember those days. But we clicked because my husband had COVID. I asked for a book recommendation on Facebook, and it was Chaya who actually responded. And then the two of us started talking about books over lockdown quite extensively. And we thought, you know what, maybe there'd be other people interested. It wasn't sort of a plan.
We had no concept that there was anyone talking about books online. Obviously, we thought we were highly innovative until we got to Instagram and saw the thousands upon thousands of accounts. And all we really wanted was a free book.
We wanted a free book. We wanted a free book.
And I think we are lucky in a sense because I'm a criminal barrister. Sophie is writing a book. We don't rely on social media for any source of like important income, which I think alleviates the pressure from us.
It's something we call our side hustle, really. But it's
just
grown a lot.
It grew for a number of different reasons. It got picked up by national press. We now are book editors for Glamour. We work with publishers. We work with a lot of book prizes, the Women's Prize as an example, and we have a website that gets between 1,000 to 3,000 hits a week. So it's growing.
It's growing, and I think when we talk about it, I think the thing about it that I suppose helped it grow and that stands out for me is that it was genuinely just our passion, that we kind of never had this sort of deliberate plan. It came from the love of the books. So yeah, I guess that's a bit about
but we
it,
have
really.
some tips.
Yeah, we do. We have tips.
But now you're at 20,000. Talk to me a little bit about, and I'm going to let you two pronounce it because my French is truly awful.
We don't pronounce it in a French way.
We
it's
do.
Just, well, do
the
we?
Bibliofilles.
Okay.
Very pretentious.
Yes, that's very...
It was the only name that was around. We wanted the Bibliofilles, but someone had taken it, so we just went for the extra L. That's
okay. It's
So
that extra L that you need the French kind of accent.
The Biblio girls, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how is your question? How did it grow, Jo?
Yes. How did it grow to because you've got what, 20,000 when I last looked?
We do. We haven't, the growth from our perspective, once we hit 15 to 20, we were getting what we wanted from publishers. We were getting what we wanted to the website. And now we've actually got someone who is sort of like our consultant who also works on our website. She's an influencer herself. She works for Condé Nast. And I think we didn't want to hit the big numbers straight away just because that takes a lot of effort. We actually were doing a lot more nationally, if you see what I mean. But I think it was cross-pollination. We did stuff with Dr. Julie, who's at 4 million on TikTok and 1 million on Instagram. We did stuff with some big influencers who then recommended us. We specifically asked them, would you mind recommending our account if you like what we're talking about?
I think people like talking about books. I mean, if you're a book person, it was quite easy to tap into people and have that common ground. And I think there were other influencers, and I don't really think of ourselves as influencers, but I know that, look, people read what we recommend, and we don't. It's funny because that's not something you can always quantify, because we haven't got a survey out asking people if they're reading our recommendations, but we know people do. But yes, growth was very much about connecting, being pretty present on social media, which I think now we're probably less present in some ways because we have more to do with glamour and publication. And we have other work to do. So it's a juggle. It's a juggle.
But I think if someone's looking to grow an account now, working out which platform works for you is very important. TikTok is a very different beast to Instagram, and there are different skill sets that you can cross apply. But with Instagram, I think it is about having that presence with someone, which is why Benji's so helpful, because he's got those people with those platforms. Building a platform on Instagram is very, very difficult on your own if you're not just being picked to be on the explore page, which is, one in every tens of millions plus. Your stuff will go nowhere. On TikTok, it's different. We see that some of our videos will get a lot of views for no reason when we're not doing that. So I think it is about identifying someone that has followers that you think would be interested in your business, in your niche, and then seeing what you can do with that person, seeing how you can connect with that platform, because they are already built. I think.
Chaya, I'm going to stop you there for a minute. Benji, I'm going to go to you just to give our lovely audience of now 70, which is exciting. Just could you give an overview of the influencer market and what they do and how their business works, as question number one, and then I'm going to ask you what the difference is, because there's different sizes of influencers, so that would be really helpful. But can you first of all just please give us an overview of the kind of influencer market and how it's maybe grown?
The term influencer I don't really like. I like more creator, because these people essentially are somebody who has a passion. They go and create content about their passion, and they're able to make money off the back of it. The reason they're called an influencer is because they influence people. So essentially, the reason people that are influencers can generate revenue off the back of it is because if they recommend something like the books, other people then go off the back of it and then purchase a book or read that specific book. So we have influencers in all different niches, whether it be mental health, medical, fashion and beauty, bloggers, travel, videography, everything. So that when a brand reaches out and wants to specifically target a group of people, they know that they're reaching somebody who has influence over a group of people that are also interested in that group of products. So there's no point getting a fashion and beauty influencer to promote a fast food product, because realistically their audience isn't going to be engaged and interested. The same way I wouldn't promote makeup products to an audience of people that are looking to read new books, right? So with influencer marketing, it's very important that you target the right people. If you're a brand, essentially, because you're reaching a customer base. But how I would think of it is, if somebody in your family comes home with a brand new iPhone and they're raving about it, they love it, it's the best thing that's ever come off the shelf, right? Instantly, because you trust that person, they're in your family, you feel safe to then go to the shop and purchase an iPhone because he's got one and he's raving about it. And that's essentially the same way an influencer works. You tune in every single day to watch somebody's content because you are bought into them as a person. If they turn around and say, cool guys, you need to buy this new mascara, there's a reason that you go and buy that, is because you trust their recommendation. So it's all about trust and reputation. In terms of different sizes of influencers, obviously you have smaller influencers, which are categorized as micro influencers. I'd say they go up all the way to 25,000 followers, something like that. And then between 25 and 100,000 is a macro influencer. Essentially all it means is the size. But what you tend to find is that the smaller influencers usually have more of an engaged circle of people, and it's easier to target a niche with a smaller influencer. When you're going through the scales of a mega influencer who's got 12 million followers, yes, they have a lot of reach and it's great for brand awareness. Are you going to be able to tap in and sell a load of products specifically? It's harder because the audience is less engaged. Yes, they're tuning in and watching somebody, but it doesn't mean that they're actually keeping up with every single thing that they do. So for small businesses especially, I recommend smaller influencers because you're able to really tap into your niche.
Yeah, thank you. No, so actually, for small businesses, which most of the people on here have, you're actually saying it might be better to try and target the kind of micro influencers if they want to do, rather than the like the mega,
the big,
the mega or the macro influencers.
Yeah, I think it depends on what the product is. It's very much a case-by-case basis, and influencer marketing isn't something that you can just hire somebody and say, I want 100 influencers to promote my product. It's much more specific than that. We need to understand the KPIs behind the campaign and what a brand actually wants to achieve, and then you match them with the right influencers. So, for example, my business, we invest heavily in a data platform that when we input a brand and their demographics, it will shoot out to us a list of all the influencers that are relevant for them, and then a brand will choose which influencers they like. But it's very much a specific case-by-case basis.
And could you give us an example of kind of what's worked for a business and can you give us a concrete example
for a small business or a big business?
Let's go smaller if you can.
It's harder for me to come up with examples for smaller business, but I've got one that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
There's a company on TikTok, it's called Root Sweetie Sweets. It's basically an online sweet store, right? And they sell these big 1 kilo, almost like pick and mix style bags of sweets. They worked with hundreds of influencers to basically give out a promo code saying, use this code 20% off, blah, 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 to buy your sweets online. Nothing was sticking. They couldn't convert it because they were targeting the wrong influencers. We then selected one influencer who specifically talks about eating sweets all the time. So the audience already knows that they're like an absolute sweet tooth. That's what they're interested in. They're snacking every night. They're making videos around it. We then produced a very simple piece of content for them off the back of it, kept the same discount, but all that was different is that the audience was already engaged with the products, sent out a video, it did 1 million views, and we sold out every single bag of sweets that they had. So it just shows that if you're able to really target, then you can deliver some good results. But influencer marketing can get super expensive, especially if you're trying to hire hundreds of influencers. So you want to be working with an agency that's able to really care about the spend of your money and not just want to say, yeah, book everybody for the sake of it.
So Sophie and Chaya, just going to you, given kind of you're new to the, and you would be classed, I guess, as from Benji's description as a micro influencer, kind of where do you fit into the model, and how are you starting? You said it's not your sole income, but it is a side hustle, and thank you very much. Side hustles work as well. So how are you starting to kind of make?
But I would just like to say, because of what Benji said, we worked with someone who is on TV every single night, who has a gargantuan platform, but her reach is minute. So you look at the numbers, and I know that she's getting, because we chatted to her, the brand deals that this person is getting, you're talking in the 6 figures on a monthly basis. But she sent us screenshots of her stories just because, so on Instagram, you can see how many people have seen your stories. And it was less than we were getting with 15. So I think everything that Benji said is so true, in that we are considered micro, and we have worked with people with humongous accounts, but our engagement is so high. And we literally do see people clicking through to our website, clicking through to buy the book.
No, and it's funny, just to reiterate on that point before we answer your question about how we started to earn money from this. We had, for example, this a really lovely, I think she's a Chabad Rebbetzin in America, one night we were asleep, she was awake, time difference, and we didn't know her, she followed our page, had no contact with her whatsoever. I think she had about 3,000 followers or something like that. She recommended our page in our stories. We woke up, we had so many new followers. Obviously
we've gone up by 2K.
We're clearly relevant to that market. It's just very big. But mentioning the influencer who had millions, nothing. So it is
got to really target the right account.
But yes, talking about earning and this becoming our side hustle, it wasn't something we set out to achieve at the beginning. I'd say the main way was starting to work with Glamour magazine. So Glamour are now almost entirely digital, I think, and they we knew that a couple of the journalists were following what we were doing and had recommended our page and were engaging actively with us, which essentially opened a conversation. They had done stuff relating to books, but not in a kind of organized way. And it was good timing. They were looking to pick up on it. We were happy to put something forward. And they basically took us on as book editors. We now produce monthly pieces for them. We do their monthly book roundup for the next month ahead, so people know what to go out and read. We recommend, we write other feature pieces that are connected to books. So we're doing stuff with them every month, which is paid. And we have since had publishers, I think since taking on that role, we've had publishers who have contacted us asking us to make videos. So we do quite a lot of videos about books that we love. It used to be just the two of us in lockdown because we couldn't see each other in person, chatting about books that we love.
Now we interview authors.
And we feel so privileged to have done that. Authors who we never thought would want to do it. Authors of some of our favourite books. We've messaged them on the off chance and they've been really happy to do it. But we've had publishers asking if we'd interview ourselves, having a chat like we used to in lockdown about their books and paying us to do it.
We have to be very careful because we do not recommend books we don't like. So, and we also don't want to become influencers who start talking about makeup. And we have been approached by companies that deal with swimwear. We've had companies that have asked us to talk about like something really unrelated, and we have said no because we think it would detract from our authenticity. We are now looking to commercialize our website, our newsletter. We have been approached by sponsors who want to like have a little band at the bottom of the newsletter. We are looking to work with Waterstones. They have approached us. So there's lots of different ways that we can expand our reach, because you could talk about candles. I love to light this candle when I'm reading. You could talk about food. Oh, this is a great snack with my book. We would have to connect it to what we do, because we would not want someone to follow us who is following us for ages, because we've been doing this for a year and a half now, and to go, 1 minute, why are you telling me about makeup? It wouldn't feel right to us at all. And it's also, what Benji said is very important. You have to give a lot of yourself, and we don't want to. I don't put my kids on the page. I don't put anything about my work because I work for the government. So we very much are focused towards books.
But so in truth, I do believe, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a bit more after, but I think that actually when you give more of yourself personally, I do think people are very interested in that. They want to know about your personal life. They want to know what you're feeding your kids. It's so strange, but they want to know what you're going through and where you're at in life. And for both of us, I think we do sometimes share details about our lives, but it's kind of
not to the same extent.
It has to be related to what we're doing. And it's not just for the sake of it.
For a small business, I think that you should talk about how you started. People love those stories. People love the stories of someone starting in their bedroom, or starting something for their child, or starting something because they were unwell. That gets a lot of reach, I would say, because it's authentic, personal stories.
So just going back to, in fact, I think somebody's kind of asked it, and Benji and Sophie and Chaya, maybe you can answer this, is if the content creator or influencer doesn't like the brand, how does that work? Like, it might be very relatable, but you know, what if you didn't like the book, or you were like not so keen? Or Benji, have you had circumstances where somebody's like, no, really not into, do they still have to do it or they don't?
Yeah, I mean, no, there's no, so from a talent management perspective, we don't force anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. We probably turn down millions of pounds of business each year from influencers that have been promoted or asked to promote stuff that they don't want to promote. And that's fine. Yeah, I've got one influencer, it's a family account, right? It's mum, dad, and 2 kids. And for some reason, Domino's reached out and they said, right, we want to promote this new deal that we've got going on, whatever it was. And they offered £14,000 for them to do some content. It's a big influencer, so they demand that sort of fee. And the answer I got was, we don't eat Domino's. That was it.
Right.
And to most people, you think, well, it's 14 grand just to eat the pizza, right? But actually, by keeping the authenticity and not breaking just because a brand wants to throw money at them, when the brands come that they actually like working with, they demand a much higher fee because they'll only work with people that they like. And also the audience really does see that, because it's obvious if you're reading a script and you're doing something because you don't like it, or if actually this is my favorite pizza, you can tell. And the audience will buy into that much more if it's more authentic. To me, obviously, I want people to take the deals because that's how I make my money. But at the end of the day, you can't force people to do something they don't want to do. And yeah, it's all about being authentic.
I think it's different when you're dealing with those sums of money. I can only speak in terms of what we're doing. But, you know, Chaya and I, we're always very, very clear about it. If we don't like a book, we're not going to talk about it.
We won't slam it.
But we will never slam a book either, because writing a book is a very, very difficult thing to do. And I'm in the middle of writing my own book, and I know there are going to be people who slam it online and who don't like it, but we just don't do that. We are there to talk about books that we love. So if we get sent books to review and we hate one, we're not going to post a scathing review, but we will post those reviews about the stuff that we genuinely love. But in relation to what Benji was saying, it was interesting. It's just, this is, I suppose, a case study that I remember. I know someone who is quite a prolific influencer, I suppose, and I asked a question about a product that they were promoting in their feed. It was a kids related product and they were raving about it, and I thought it was quite expensive. I was wondering about whether to get it for my 3rd child, so I dropped them a DM, and they basically said it was rubbish, and they were promoting it on their page and they said it's so not worth the money. And I actually now don't look at anything that they post, because even though I know them, I sort of feel like what they're saying and what they're recommending is just not genuine. For me, the trust has gone. Yeah. So I can't trust their recommendations.
And someone just put in the chat, how did that person who has a massive platform with a tiny reach get massive deals? They're a household name.
They're celebrity.
They're on like the billboards, they're in magazines. So it's not just about online, but she is getting stuff online. And it depends what she's divulging. She might just say, look, I've got 1 million followers. She might utilize 1 or 2 posts that are personal to her that did get, 3.5 million likes. But on a day-to-day basis, her stuff is getting very, very, very small views. And it's that authenticity that's very important, because people have no lives. I say that with absolute respect. We have seen people, I have seen it where someone went, 3 years ago in a video, you said X, Y, Z. You're like, how? They've gone back and looked at every single piece of content you've ever posted and then cross-referenced it. So with that Domino's example, I can imagine if that family have ever said they don't like Domino's online, that will get found. We have to be very careful, which is why for a small business, to make this relatable, I would go for the people with 20, 30, 40,000 followers that all they talk about. Let's say if you're a gluten-free brand who talk about food allergies or vegan foods, who have high engagement. Look at their pictures. Look if they're getting consistently 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 likes. Look at how many comments are on their posts. Look at how many views their videos are getting. If you're looking to build up your own platform, think about how much you want to give of yourself, how much you want to talk about the story behind your business, because that will make you unique and that will set you apart. but I would definitely look at,
on Instagram,
influencers
there
pay.
are, I mean, we mainly use Instagram, and there are communities for everything. You need to find your community. So it was like us with the books. We thought, oh, we're the first people doing this. No, we're not. We are a drop in an ocean. There are many, many people talking about books. We like to think we're one of the best doing it, but there are lots of people doing it. So if gluten-free food is what you're doing, you will find the gluten-free food influencers. They are all there. Whatever you are doing, they are there.
I'm going to Brandon. You've just asked a question that I'm actually going to ask Benji to answer, if that's all right. Is basically, can you just, I mean, Brandon's put it from a kind of a startup or a company with a limited budget. How do you make it work? But can you just explain the process of, you know, maybe a business here thinks, actually, I think it would be quite a good idea. I'd try to get my product, you know, do some kind of campaign with a content creator. How does it all work?
So as a startup, it's a completely different conversation than as a Amazon or a Domino's or whatever. So, you know, taking it from perspective, I'll explain the corporate side and then the small business side. Okay. So as a corporate business, a brand like Domino's would come to us with a budget, let's call it £100,000, right? And they say, cool, we want to work with influencers. Please, can you find us 10, 15 influencers that are all interested in pizza or whatever, right? It could be a food influencer, it could be a family that are ordering in for their Saturday, Friday night, whatever. So that is a very high spend. It doesn't really deliver too much return on investment. What they're looking to do is take back market share from other pizza companies by being present and getting loads of views. If I was a small business and I was starting up, say I'm a book business, right? So I've got a bookstore and I've got hundreds of books that I'm trying to sell both online and in store. My strategy would be going on Instagram, finding every single book account, right? Small and big. I would write a list of them. I would then go through each page individually and understand what type of books they're talking about. Because, for example, some pages are even so niche that they'll only talk about sci-fi books, for example. And if you don't have a strong selection of sci-fi books, then what's the point in working with them, right? So everything has to be super specific. I would then take that list and mark it down to the first 10 to 15 that actually make sense for your business to work with. Once you've got that, then it's a case of the same way you would reach out to companies or people to buy your products. You're reaching out to these people to say, cool, I've got an offering that I want to work with you on to sell my products. Now, your offering has got to be compelling enough that that person that owns the account then is interested to work with you, whether that be a percentage of sales off of everything that they sell if they're promoting your products, or a small flat fee that you start with and you say you want to build out a long-term relationship with the influencer and work with them long-term, and as they start selling more products, you'll up the fee. I mean, it's very difficult to get thrown straight into it without spending lots of budget. So you've got to be able to, no agency is going to touch a £500 spend, for example. It's just not realistic because there's no profit margin in it for an agency. So you've got to be creative yourself and really work out how you're going to do it. But in terms of the proposed, like what you should be doing is just very, very niche targeting, and basically offering some sort of an affiliate deal so you don't have to put your hand in your pocket straight away. As the business grows and you have a relationship with the influencer, I would suggest paying them for their time and doing a bigger scale collaboration, whether that's making them the face of your brand, or just doing more frequent promotion. But it's really important not to just think, okay, I'm going to put aside a massive marketing budget and spend it on a load of influencers for the sake of it. You'd much rather spend a little bit of extra time, less money, and build relationships as a small business. As a big business or a medium-sized business, if you can afford to put away tens of thousands of pounds for marketing and you want to build a presence for yourself in an industry, then yes, booking bigger influencers is definitely the way to go. And a lot of companies are making a lot of money off the back of it, because for the same price that you would put an ad on TV, you can book 50 influencers that have 15, 20 times the reach of a TV ad. Most people just skip them these days. So it's like super engaged audience of people that are bought in to what you're selling, basically. It's what having salespeople all over the country.
We've had quite a few questions about promoting a service rather than a product. So can you just, Benji, can you just answer about, and then I'll come
Okay,
to,
so
yeah.
Okay, service, right. Say, for example, you sell...
Brandon, who's asked, he does laser and lighting at simchas and events, and, you know, so it's a definite service versus a product, which I get is kind of a bit easier.
Okay, so you sell you do events and stuff. So what I would then do, that's difficult, because, to be honest, the target audience for that would be an everyday today consumer. It's not a business, or it's not an influencer. So what I would do in that respect is build up your own social pages by creating engaging content that goes on your pages, so that when people do see it, they think, oh wow, I should be using him for my event. You can look to work with influencers to promote it. That's a very difficult one. I think a better example...
event, so you know how some people, there's like their florists or their event stylists or caterers, I guess that would be something linked, if you could get them to maybe promote it, I guess. Would that be something?
Yeah, but you've got to do it authentically. So you've got to be able to integrate it. For example, if an influencer is having an event, you could offer them their catering for free, for them to create a load of pieces of content on it in order to get in with that influencer. I wouldn't recommend doing that unless it's a massive influencer and you're getting a lot of benefit as a catering company. But it has to authentically fit in. If they're making content all day, every day, and suddenly they make a video about why your catering company is the best catering company, nobody's going to care, realistically. And that's just, unfortunately, the truth of it, because it's the same way when you're reading a newspaper, there's a massive advert. Chances are 9 out of 10 people don't even read it. They just flip past it to the next page. So you've got to, if you want to give someone the best chance of actually engaging with your advert, and remember, advertising is a game, right? Not every single person that sees your advert is going to purchase. That's just how it is. You've got to be able to be reaching the right audience. So if you have a service that provides shoe cleaning, there's companies where you send off all your shoes and they clean them and send them back to you, right? Then you'd be wanting to work with a page that sells the most amount of shoes in the UK and add that as an offering that they also sell. Do you know what I mean? So strapping it on as something relevant. The same way as a catering company, you could work and get in partnership with different events companies that are big on socials and offer almost like a joint package that when we do your event, we also have a preferred partner of caterers, and just build your network and be on as many pages as possible, so that when that page then gets an incoming request for a bar mitzvah, suddenly they're like, cool, well, you should use our preferred catering partner as well, and we can do everything in-house. And imagine if you're on a preferred partner of 30 different events companies, at some point you're going to get a load of different catering opportunities come through. So it's not about how many, you could reach 50 people and 5 of them want to use you. It's not just about how many people you can reach.
Okay, thank you. Sophie and Chaya, what have you learned about kind of which posts are, I mean, this might be too general, but which posts are most effective in terms of engagement, and how do you kind of plan what to post and how often to post? Or is it
I would say personal, but just to jump on something that Benji was saying, something that worked for us is connecting with similar accounts, doing something with them. I see sometimes like massive influencers who get sent stuff and they just talk about them. If you're a small business with a product, offering to send like a PR package to someone is a way to go if you don't have a big advertising reach. Obviously, there is the risk that they won't talk about them, but you could, if it's, especially with the smaller ones, like they will talk about them because they're not getting sent thousands of products a day. We plan our posts according to what we're reading, what we want to read. That's the beauty of us, in that we don't owe anyone anything. When we get sent, you know, we get 5 to 10 books a week. Those are not, we are not contractually obligated to talk about any. But the posts that work are very much, you know, on Instagram, as an example, reels recommending a collection of books, interviews with authors.
I also think there are posts, I mean, we do different kinds of posts for sure throughout the week. I do think that every Friday we tend to post our personal favorites, and I think that's one that has worked because it tends to be a bit more of a personal post. Also, weirdly, sometimes when we're actually in the photos, you get a lot of likes, and it's just, I think that's algorithmically correct, is that when there's a face in there, it doesn't really matter if it's ours. But sometimes I think because we don't show our faces loads on our page, that when we it's people behind it, and I think that people connect with that. And I also think it's those posts where in the caption we've been quite personal. Again, I'm not saying you have to overshare, because we really don't, but it might be something that we've been going through, or just sharing that bit of extra info in the caption that's more personal. People have liked. We're probably less of an example of this now, although Instagram has now introduced scheduled posts, but we were very strict at the beginning. When we were trying to grow, we were so strict on ourselves. We said, we have to post every single day at 7 a.m. A second later, and we've ruined it. That's kind of, it was just it was quite funny actually thinking back. But I think posting every day, especially when you get going and building up that content, and maybe it's not every day, that's just what we chose to do, but being consistent. You might say that, you know what, I'm going to have a post going up every Monday, Wednesday and Friday morning, and then Sunday nights I'm going to have a little bit of a theme, whatever. But consistency does help. I think certainly at the beginning, we're really not so good at it now, but thanks to Instagram scheduling, I think we'll be better. But I think maybe because we've got to a place that we're happy with where we're at, what we're getting, and we're kind of a bit more relaxed, I think, about that. But I think it's really important at the beginning, if you're trying to grow an audience, to have that consistency, as well as kind of the connecting with others that Chaya and Benji have talked about.
Someone's just asked what time and days work best. Once you build even a small following, you'll be able to go into your insights into your account and see when people are most online. We have found that if we post after 8-9 a.m. it gets lost. We have found that sometimes, as an example, I think we had like 4,500 people see one story last week, and then a few hundred the next week. It does massively fluctuate, but I think it's all about being able to connect people to a story or a product. People feel like they message us with their life's woes. They feel connected to us. They want to talk to us about books. We also now run a book club for a breast cancer charity, which is Estee Lauder backed. So we have stuff going on there with that brand. So we have very much used Instagram as a platform to jump from, as opposed to using it solely just to make money, or solely just to make reach on Instagram. We have reach elsewhere, which I think is why we've relaxed. But consistency. Think about a series that you could do with your product or service. Get people involved in that series, because I think that's really important.
And I can see people writing this in the chat, but it really does depend on your audience. And I think as you go along, you'll get to know them. So, we found that 7 a.m. slot, people were looking at their phones. It was sort of quite sadly the first thing people do in the mornings. And as someone who wakes up very early in the morning, sometimes I would post at 6 a.m. and have loads of engagement, which was quite nice, but also a bit sad because everyone's online. And people are posting also. It's that time that people are feeding their babies, or they're giving their kids a bath, and they don't really want to watch them in there. Like, it depends on your audience, but I think that you'll learn that as you go along. I think as well, though, look, we have to remember these are platforms, and sometimes we found it with Instagram that you'll be getting loads of engagement, and then the next week you get very little, and you're doing exactly the same things, and you just kind of have to accept, like, this is algorithm based, and you can't always predict it. But I think it's just about not always focusing on the numbers, on the post, just doing what you're doing, and then you'll see that there's another wave. It's a bit like a very strange game. There's something quite odd about it in that respect.
Can thank you so much for that. That's really, really helpful. I'm sure that'll be really helpful to a lot of people here. Can I ask Benji, because I want to just have a couple of minutes for questions as well. And Britt asked this, but I also want to know is, Benji, what's the best way to actually measure if the influencer is working for you? Like, how do you kind of manage the results? that would be really helpful. And Britt had asked this before, like, how can you measure?
I think it's less of a case of measuring and more of a case of understanding when you're starting what you actually want to achieve. So if you're looking to achieve awareness and you just want lots of eyeballs on your account, then you can very easily see that after a campaign or after you've worked with influencers, you're able to see exactly how many people it reached, the audience it reached, age, gender, location, that sort of stuff. If you're looking to sell products and actually convert a return on investment, it's the easiest way is obviously by using stuff like promo codes. So tracking how many products are sold. A lot of the campaigns that we work on as an agency are big corporate blue chip companies that their concern is how can we be seen and how can we be relevant in the current market space. But as a smaller business, it's the same learnings, just less money is being spent, essentially. So you can still gauge a massive audience. So, for example, you could reach 20,000 people if you're interested in selling books, right? That 20,000 people is much more valuable than 1 million people that are interested in fashion and makeup. But in terms of measuring, we also offer sometimes competitions where we use a data platform, again, where GDPR compliant, you're able to collect the data from everybody that enters that competition. So a brand like L'Oreal will say we're giving away a year's worth of free skincare. We'll then set up an Instagram competition that runs on Instagram stories. It's like a link click. You click the link, it takes you to a landing page. It's all white labeled. We design it exactly how it is. So it can either be like a spinny wheel or like one of those click boxes. And once you enter, you then input your email address and your address and all those bits and pieces. And the brand then has all of the data off the back of the competition, and one person will obviously win. So that's one way of creating a data list for like newsletters and stuff like that. But yeah, it really just depends on a case-by-case basis on what you're looking to achieve. You can track, it's not a platform that you can't track. You'll be able to track everything.
And how much? Yeah, there's a couple of questions about cost. So actually, it would be interesting, Benji, to ask you, and then go to Chaya and Sophie. How much do you charge? Like, how much is that? How long is the string?
It is very much how long's a piece of string, because it depends on the statement of work that you want somebody to do. Just because you're asking them to do one post doesn't mean that there's a load of work that goes into the back of it. A lot of the influencers on our book are ranging from macro to mega influencers, essentially. So the budget sizes are different. Although I do know that there's a lot of micro influencers that can earn up to £5,000-10,000 a month off the back of collaborating with brands. So there is a substantial amount of money in there to be made if you can build an engaged audience. It's literally just down to an engaged audience, nothing else. The ones that are earning the cash are the ones that have an engaged audience. But to put in perspective, an average campaign that we would run would be like 100K, and a company would get between 10 to 20 influencers for that budget.
So that's on the big. Have you got any examples of smaller campaigns or not?
I know a lot of other agencies that run smaller campaigns, and we do use them sometimes for micro influencers. I think if you've got a budget of $2,500, $5,000, something like that, there's definitely an opportunity to run a campaign with a load of influencers. They just will be smaller influencers, essentially. But that's why when you can cut out the need to use an agency by just doing a little bit of research yourselves. And it's very easy to search like key hashtags. So for example, I keep going back to books, but it's relevant right now, right? So if you're looking to reach and sell books, if you start searching hashtags that are relevant to books, all of the biggest book accounts will come up, and you will be able to make a list of them. And all an agency is going to do, my agency, for example, we use a data platform, so it makes it a lot speedier, right? But all they're going to do is find, if they're doing their job properly, find all of the biggest book accounts and then say, right, this one charges this one charges this one charges this, and everybody charges differently. you can do all of that research yourself and send the pages a message. If your product is relevant, they're going to want to work with you most likely, because at the end of the day, it's their job and they want to earn a bit of extra money on the side. So as long as you've done your targeting right, how do you search a hashtag? In the search bar, literally just put hashtag and then whatever it's going to be. If you do your research right, you essentially act as what an agency is going to do. And then the process is just understanding what you're asking of them, and simply what you want to achieve is what you want to ask of them. If you want to sell books, I would say you reach out to the influencer and you say, cool, my goal is I really want to sell X amount of books. What do you think we could do together in order to reach that? And they'll come up with a creative for you.
Brilliant, Benji, thank you. Adam actually had a nice question just right at the end, because we need to finish very soon. Is like, what point should you reach out? I mean, how many, if you've got a few followers, or if you've got some followers, like, how do you know when to decide whether to reach out?
My biggest tip would be leave the influencers as a last plan of action. I would focus on your own socials to start, because if you're working with a load of influencers and they're coming back to your pages and it doesn't click, and it doesn't, like, they can't see what they're being sold essentially, then you're just going to be converting people to a page that doesn't turn into a sale. So your page has to be pristine and has to be almost like a sales portfolio, so that when someone does convert from an ad and goes to your page, there's a very easy way for them to convert and actually turn into a customer. So I would invest your budget into creating really good content for your own pages first, so that you have your own presence. And then once you have a presence, what you'll find is you'll probably get influencers that reach out to you anyway and say, hey, I love what you're doing. I'd love to see if we can work together, because people are proactive. So I would say focus on your own socials first. Build up. It doesn't matter about how many followers you've got. It's just what it looks like. When I look on your page, does it look like a business that is going to be able to deliver something for me, especially if it's a service?
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. And then maybe Chaya and Sophie, if you can just finish off, because I think it's saying, like, Kicker Digger said, how do you grow organically? So how did you go from kind of growing organically? And I guess, like Benji just said, you had to grow before people came to you.
Yeah, I think I think looking at it, because I suppose now, at the beginning, we were trying to grow what we were doing almost like it was a small business, even though we wanted to grow it and raise the profile. And now I guess we're on both sides of the fence, because now we have people approaching us. I think the key way that we grew organically, we talked about consistency in posting and engagement. One of the things that we did, and we still do now, but not so regularly, we reached out to people who we were interested in. And I'm talking at this time, we had like a few hundred followers at this point. And we reached out to a woman called Elizabeth Day. I don't know if anyone listened to the podcast, How to Fail. It's very good. If you haven't, I recommend it. And we knew she liked books. I'd had a very brief conversation with her on my personal Instagram account before, but I knew she'd be able to see my messages. And it was about a year later, I said, look, we've just set up this page. Will you have a look? I know you like reading. Would you recommend me your favorite book? And she did. And we've had more and more people recommend stuff through our page. We do it much less, but that was a key way, finding a way to get people in and to share your content, which they're usually happy to do if it means a bit of self-promotion for them as well. That helped us quite a lot.
I think that quid pro quo is very important. So now, because we work for Glamour, we get massive authors who also have huge platforms saying, we'd love our book to be in your article, we'd love our book to be considered for a prize, we'd love our book to be something to do, on your newsletter, on your website. There, would you like to interview me? And so you'll get someone like Dr. Julie, who is on TV regularly, who's got a platform of millions, to pay her. And she does not do a lot of brand deals, because she's, again, a very authentic person who kind of has a clinical background, is not interested in talking about the makeup she uses every day. We now have that relationship with her in which she will promote our platform, and she does quite a few times without us even asking. But again, if you think about it, if she's got 1 million people, a smaller percentage will be interested in reading. So we thought about who our target audience was, and that's what I would say to a small business. Who is your target audience? We thought, okay, you're talking the demographics from a certain age, maybe young parents, maybe this, you know, we didn't want to focus on a specific niche of book. There are hundreds, if not thousands of accounts talking just about fantasy books. We talk about all different kinds
because we have very different tastes as well, and we wanted the account to be, and it's an expression of ourselves, and we love the creative aspect of it, you know.
So I think it's just about targeting people with platforms that you think would have a percentage of people that would be interested in your passion.
To be fair, nice pictures help. I mean, it's basic, but they do. I mean, if you're posting up rubbishy pictures, if you want the account to look slick and kind of professional, you've got to start by taking better photos. I mean, we just use our iPhones, we don't, you know.
But we took a lot of time at the beginning. Now we've gotten used to it. But as an example, our newsletter, which has a huge amount of people, more than we would ever have thought, we did a competition to get people interested in our newsletter. 12 publishers, we're talking the main publishers in the UK, donated us some books. They are now on our website as our brand partners. We then did a little competition. We got a huge amount of interest beyond our platform, and now we've got all these people that get a monthly newsletter. Those newsletters are created, we write the content, but they are created by someone we employ to do that, who has a company. You know, that has to look very slick, because we know that newsletter is going to journalists, editors of national newspapers, because we're now engaging with them through our press work. So I think if you're putting stuff out there, you've got to think that it represents you or your brand, and it's got to look perfect. I wouldn't put anything on there that looked amateur.
Yeah, we're quite strict about the pictures we post, but it's not that hard to get. I mean, you can do it with a bit more ease, I think. You don't have to go crazy.